Rain slammed the glass as Nora stood in the echoing marble foyer, suitcase damp, hands shaking inside her pockets. Elliot Ramsey's voice cut through the silence, not loud but cold as ice. 1 week. No one lasts longer. Just 1 week, she kept thinking. If she could survive 7 days in this mansion, maybe everything she'd lost back home wouldn't matter so much. The storm outside seemed to answer every doubt in her mind with thunder. She couldn't help but notice the cameras built into every corner, tiny lights winking red. Elliot watched her sign the contract, and when his hand brushed hers as he passed the pen, her breath stuttered for a heartbeat. Electric, unexpected, nothing like she'd felt before. A woman in a gray uniform rolled out her suitcase past Nora, eyes tired. She whispered, low enough so Elliot wouldn't hear, "He'll chew you up. He always does." Then the doors snapped shut behind her, leaving Nora alone with the billionaire in his wheelchair and the world's heaviest silence. Elliot didn't explain his rules twice. Don't go wandering. My study, the West Wing, off limits. Obey the house schedule. You get 1 chance if you cross a line. He paused, letting the words stretch, eyes never leaving hers. You last a week, you leave with cash. Fail, and you're out the same night. Got it? Nora nodded. She needed this. Her family was counting on a miracle after all they'd lost. She wasn't going to quit, not like the scared woman who just left, or whoever came before her. But as the clock ticked and the doors locked behind her, Nora wondered not if she'd survive, but how much of herself she'd have left when the week was over. Follow only my rules. Fail, and you're out by midnight. Elliot's warning rang out in the hall as Nora disappeared up the staircase, heart pounding. Would you last, or would you run? Drop your answer below, because for Nora, the trial had just begun. The day Nora arrived in Traverse City, fall had just begun burning the trees along Lake Michigan. The mansion stood apart, wrapped in stone and secrets, every window reflecting a sky that threatened storms. Her first afternoon was a parade of hired help, each showing her only the parts of the house Elliot permitted, never the West Wing, never his private study. Dinner was silent at a table long enough to seat a board meeting. Elliot arrived precisely at 7, eyes focused, posture regal even in his chair. He finished every bite, never breaking rhythm, but Nora, nerves fraying, dropped her fork. Without thinking, she joked, "You run this place tighter than an ER." His gaze met hers, sharp, then almost amused. When Nora poured the wine, her hand shook enough that a few drops splattered the white tablecloth. Elliot's hand met hers, his grip surprisingly warm, steady as she mopped up the spill. For a second, they both paused, sensation buzzing quietly. She looked away, cheeks warming, and set the glass down. After dinner, she noticed him counting out pills at the kitchen counter, lining them up by color, then noting them in a coded logbook. She kept her curiosity hidden, but took in every detail she could, every closed door, every odd hour the staff arrived and vanished. Elliot didn't waste words or energy. He stacked her plate with tasks, inventorying rooms, rejuvenating ancient houseplants, learning bizarre routines for cleaning artwork nobody remembered. It felt like an exam she'd never prepared for. With every test, he watched, waiting for her to trip up. That evening, Nora paced past the grand piano, caught between nerves and stubbornness. The polished gold reflected her face, but instead of her own eyes, she found Elliot's sharp gaze meeting hers in the reflection. He didn't speak, he only stared, the message clear, she was being measured, and the scale wasn't kind. Would you challenge someone's control if it meant survival? Ever faced a test where one mistake would cost you everything? Comment below. Nora had no idea yet just how high Elliot would set the bar. Sleep wouldn't come. Nora tossed beneath starched sheets, shadows flickering as wind rattled the trees. Sometime after midnight, she heard Elliot's voice, deep, urgent, muffled by the crack beneath his half-closed door. It's not enough. I want the evidence, his words tumbled out, tangled with frustration. Every time she thought silence had settled, it snapped again with another tense demand. Curiosity drew Nora down the dim hall, slippers silent on ancient wood. The west wing door blinked with a digital lock, off limits, red light steady. She pressed her palm to it anyway, hunger for truth outweighing fear. Nothing budged. On her way back, Nora's eyes landed on another sliver of light, a door cracked open. Inside, she found Elliot, not yet alert to her presence, shirt unbuttoned and head bowed over a ledger. It struck her, the rawness at his nape, the way vulnerability softened him without his armor of control. For a moment, she just watched, pulse pounding. He looked up and caught her gaze. Surprise, then anger, then something he tried to mask. She froze, trapped by the intensity in his stare, the unspoken conversation charged like an exposed wire. Without a word, Elliot shut the book. "Don't sneak up on me." He spoke low, but not unkindly, the edge dulled by exhaustion. Nora backed away, words caught in her throat. Back in her room, she slipped between cold sheets and found a folded slip of paper on her pillow. In shaky lettering, "Don't trust anyone past midnight. If you heard secret things in the dark, would you risk finding out who really mattered, or keep your distance? Drop your thoughts below." For Nora, one question echoed into the night: who was she supposed to believe? First morning light snuck under the blinds, making every sharp corner in the house feel less forgiving. In the hallway, whispers carried between housekeepers, quick voices, sentences clipped. Nora recognized her own name, paired with "that accident" and "doesn't trust anyone." During a dusting run, she found a hidden frame on a forgotten shelf behind Elliot's office. Covered in dust, the news clipping sat inside, an old photo of Elliot, suited up, grinning for the cameras, headline torn away but just enough left to read: "Betrayed by partner. Wheelchair-bound after." Nora pressed for truth, but staff offered only fragments or polite lies. "It's the house," the chef muttered. "It remembers more than it should." No one answered what happened, or who'd wanted Elliot to fall. Late in the day, she was assigned to the greenhouse. The air was warm, thick with the scent of damp soil. Elliot appeared, surprising her, guiding her to a row of rare, fragile orchids. Hands covered in dirt, he pressed them gently over hers, showing how not to cut too much, how to feel when a stem was ready to bend. Their hands moved together, steady and close. She breathed his cologne, and her fingers trembled, half from nerves and half from something else. For the first time, Elliot let his own story fray, talking about how the greenhouse was his way out of pressure, the only freedom left him. Nora listened, the distance between them narrowing with every word not meant for the world outside. Just as she finished locking up, Nora caught a flicker in the corner of her eye, a shape, pale and unmoving, staring from a window high in the west wing. As soon as she looked, it was gone. Ever learned about someone's scars in a way that felt too close to your own? Do you confront the ghosts, or let them watch you from the shadows? Comment below. Nora's questions would keep her up long after the lights died. Nora couldn't resist any longer. Near midnight, she crept toward the west wing door, tried the handle, and a shrill, silent alarm flashed blue and white. Elliot arrived faster than she thought possible, chair wheels quiet on the marble. He wasn't angry this time, he was shaken, sweat on his brow despite the cold air. "Those doors are locked for a reason," he said, voice low but not cruel. She saw, even in his rigid jaw, that it was pain fueling his warning, not power. Nora confessed that not knowing was worse than any rule. She admitted how fear of failure gnawed at her since she'd lost everything, her last job, her family's savings, even her faith in others. Elliot, caught off guard by her honesty, nodded toward the now empty whiskey glasses on the mantel. They sat together in the hush of firelight, close but not touching, and yet her hand hovered over his, shadows flickering over the skin between them. For a fleeting instant, she almost took his hand, but the fear of everything rushing forward kept her still. The connection hung between them, heavy as secrets. He opened up, not with details, but with a choked line, you don't know what it is to trust someone and lose everything when they betray you. Her wall broke alongside his, silence spinning out a fragile truce. Their shared moment was cut short by the buzz of Nora's phone. One line, staring back, "Get out before you end up just like the rest." If you were warned, would you run, or would you let curiosity win? Would you trust the one who's lost as much as you, or listen to fear? Type your answer. Nora felt both choices clawing at her as night crept in, and she knew, this house had only begun to show its true face. Nora's steps echoed in the music room, drawn by an old record spinning out blues she remembered from her dad's car. Behind the shelf, a panel pressed open under her palm, revealing a safe tucked away behind dusty vinyl sleeves. With lines on her brow, she started examining the numbers and papers, bank statements, wire receipts, a trail of money circling the same names and dates. Elliot wheeled in without warning. His glance landed right on her armful of papers. Looking for a way out or a way in? His words were sharp, but beneath the chill, Nora sensed a raw edge of panic. She blurted out the truth, her fears, her struggles, the job she needed more than pride. "I'm not a thief," she insisted, voice trembling with honesty. He stopped close behind her, voice low. "Rules matter here." His breath was warm against her cheek. "Trust keeps you safe." The room spun with tension, anger fighting heat, her chest tight, hands almost reaching for his jacket but holding back. He didn't throw her out. Instead, he stared into her face, demanding her promise she'd respect the boundaries of the house and him, no exceptions. She gave her word, sensing they'd both just crossed lines that weren't meant to be crossed. Reaching into the safe, Elliot found an old envelope. The picture inside startled them both, Elliot, years younger, with a woman's arm around his shoulder, her face scratched past recognition, a warning left in ink and rage. That night, Nora wondered who his ghosts really were, and what it cost him to trust her, if he ever could. In her gut, something told her the story behind that photo was a fuse waiting to be lit. Nora couldn't shake the image out of her mind. Over breakfast, she pressed Elliot about the woman, where she'd gone, what she'd done to be erased from every memory in the mansion. He didn't look up. "She was supposed to be the only one who cared what happened to me. She left when things got hard." The bitterness in his tone ran deeper than his scars. From the staff's whispers in the hallway, Nora pieced together tangled bits of truth. Before the accident that changed everything, Elliot's lover had run this house like a queen. Some said she left angry after Elliot's world fell apart, others whispered she'd never left at all. The disappearance after the accident haunted them all. That night, rain turned sheets of glass against the windows. The generator flickered once, then again. In the library, Elliot and Nora found themselves close, books, shadows, and secrets pressing in. He looked at her differently now, and his hand hovered over her shoulder as he told her a piece of the truth about betrayal. Their eyes met, and the room shrank around them. Nora's breath caught, a kiss almost happening between them, the air dense with longing and doubt. But neither moved, not then. Guilt and fear held them apart, shadows of the past bigger than both of them. Later, Nora's phone buzzed near midnight. "She never left. She's watching." That text felt colder than the storm. A crack of thunder split the power, plunging the house into darkness. Nora and Elliot stood shoulder to shoulder with nothing but cell phone light between them. Without asking, Nora slid her arm through his, guiding him past old mirrors and locked doors. The air was thick, tense, fear and excitement pulled tight together. They reached the hall outside Elliot's bedroom just as the house jolted. Something had jammed the wheels of his chair. The threat inside the house was real, and nearby. Nora dropped, fumbling quickly, hands brushing the frame as she worked loose a sharp wire tucked into the break. Under her fingers, Elliot's body tensed, nerves raw with anger and gratitude. His voice came out shaky. "I shouldn't need your help." Nora met his eyes, and all the fear and longing boiled over. She pulled him toward her, lips meeting his in the dim emergency light. The kiss was sudden, needy, a shot of warmth in the cold. Neither of them expected it, but neither pulled away. It didn't last. Upstairs, a crash sent them jumping apart. Glass shattered, heavy steps thundering away, danger riding the wind through the west wing. Nora ran upstairs and found a scrap of torn, blood-marked fabric by the door, the same color as the blouse in the photograph. Would you have kissed when you should have run? Tell us in the comments. Nora wondered not whether someone wanted to hurt Elliot, but how far they would go to separate them. Nora wasn't sleeping much anymore. When she heard creaks in the floorboards late at night, she followed them, fear and curiosity neck and neck. This time she pushed into the west wing. The air was heavier, colder. Rooms were thick with dust, furniture left in a rush. At the end of the hallway, she found a secret suite. The bed was undisturbed, but the desk was stuffed with stacks of letters, all signed with a name she didn't know, warnings sharp as knives. The letters told of threats, secrets, and an attempt to bring justice for a crime committed under this roof. Elliot appeared behind her, worry burning in his voice. You shouldn't be here. But when she turned, she didn't move away, didn't want to. The fear broke, and they collapsed into a desperate embrace, his lips finding hers. Their secrets pressed out in warmth and hunger. He held her like he feared tomorrow. Their breathing calmed in the dark. Nora realized how tangled their lives had become. When she looked in Elliot's eyes, she saw pain, hope, and a plea to stay, a bond stronger than any threat. Afterward, Elliot admitted he no longer trusted the people he should. There's someone I pay who wants to see this all fall apart. The confession, whispered in the silent wing, hung between them like a dare. The next morning, voices rose all over the house, accusations, suspicions, and fear. Elliot moved fast, letting old staff go, his circle growing smaller by the hour. Nora found herself caught between loyalty to Elliot and the resentment of those who believed she was just another stranger to be blamed. The outside world crept in. Calls came from Elliot's rivals, tempting him to walk away, warning him to let go before he lost everything. Threatening texts arrived on Nora's phone, this time with her own name spelled out, if you care about him, leave. That night, Nora and Elliot fell into each other's arms, desperation melting into something softer and fierce. Bodies tangled in candlelight, walls crumbling between them. She let herself need him. He let himself be needed. Afterward, they lay in silence, the world outside pressing in, but for a moment, nothing existed but their mingled breath and sweat. Before dawn broke, Nora woke alone, sheets cool next to her. She rolled over and found a single glove on her pillow, the same color as the vanished woman's blouse. The threat was personal now, and Nora realized she wasn't fighting for just her job or Elliot anymore, but for the whole truth. If you woke to find yourself at the center of danger, would you stay for love or save yourself? Drop your answer. This mansion was no longer just haunted by the past, the war for its future had begun. The basement hadn't been opened in years, but the broken lock and scattered files suggested someone else had come searching before Nora. Down there, dust hung in streaks above a row of cabinets and glass vials. She noticed folders burned on the edges, test tubes labeled with dates and names. Stomach tight, she recognized one report, Elliot's name beside words spelling out a spinal injury, and another line of results, DNA matches, linking his ex-lover and a staff member to the night everything changed. She gathered pieces, each new one sharper than the last. Pictures from old parties, emails printed and marked over. At the bottom, Nora found a burned photo of Elliot, his hand on the shoulder of a man she'd seen working the front gate, now gone from the property. She pocketed enough proof to fill her jacket, hands shaking not from cold, but from the weight of the truth. Elliot found her in the hall, eyes stormy. The fight rose between them, rage, betrayal, old pain. That woman. I thought she loved me. She set me up. Nora pressed into him, her face close, words hot. You have to see what was real, she breathed, holding him as anger bled into longing. He pulled her close and kissed her hard, argument lost in their need, bodies pressed together with the ache of all they'd lost. After their breath slowed, she swiped the sweat from his brow and looked him in the eyes. Closer than ever, stitched together by scars and secrets, they stood in silence. A notification broke the moment, a video message on Nora's phone. It held a threat clear as day: leave tonight, or he dies before sunrise. For every answer, a new danger waited. The house was quiet until midnight. That's when flames shot up from behind the west wing, fire alarms shrieking. Nora ran to alert the staff, shouting orders that cut through the panic, smoke thick in the halls. Elliot wheeled toward his hidden study. He knew the proof needed to bring his tormentor down was hidden in a locked drawer. The smoke was thick, and the shouts grew wild. Windows blew out, sending sparks across the stairwell. Nora couldn't see Elliot at first, her voice raw from yelling his name. In the chaos, one of the longest-serving staff members cornered her, anger twisted with desperate confession. He was supposed to give me my share, he spat, but he thought money could buy forgiveness. He was the one who plotted, who wanted Elliot's inheritance, who thought ruining him would make him rich and free. Nora pushed past, searching for Elliot. The glow of the fire lit the corridor orange. There, in the thick smoke, she found Elliot. They embraced fiercely, coughing and crying, holding on in a rush of heat and fear. Their kiss was rushed, dizzy, a promise to never let go, not even for a house on fire. Firefighters arrived, tearing through the haze. By the time they reached safety, Elliot was wheezing, face ashen. Paramedics took him fast, oxygen mask pressed to his mouth. Nora stood in the ruined driveway, lungs burning, staring after the ambulance as blue lights bounced off the trees. Nora waited, heart racing, in the hush of the hospital, walls blank and too clean. Night pressed against the windows. She found her strength by remembering all she'd survived, losing family, crossing states with nothing, risking her heart on a stranger who'd needed her more than anyone let on. The moment Elliot opened his eyes, bruised but blinking, everything felt less heavy. He gripped her hand softly. Tears slipped down her face as she slid onto the bed beside him, whispering promises meant for his ears alone. Their bodies curled together under the thin hospital blanket, every touch a question, every breath a quiet thank you. It was there, in the smallest space, they relearned what trust could mean. Nora touched his hair, his jaw, letting him relax into the safety they'd both fought for. By morning, the police came with a file and a handshake. The saboteur, faced with proof, had confessed. The threats, the setup, the attack, they knew now who had tried to turn Elliot's life into dust. Sitting up, Elliot turned to Nora. Stay with me. Not as an assistant, but as my partner. Help me build a life out of these ashes. The mansion buzzed with noise for the first time in years. Construction crews hauled beams through halls, paint cans lined the steps, laughter echoing off every doorway. It looked nothing like the tomb Nora had stepped into weeks ago. Now, she and Elliot chose fixtures together, slipped notes into each other's pockets, made the kitchen theirs even as workers hammered right outside the windows. Reporters snapped pictures at the gates, doubts swirling, but Nora held Elliot's hand through every gathering, eyes shining with stubborn hope. Close to sunset, she pulled him onto the balcony over the water, city lights in the distance. There, with no barriers, she wrapped herself around him, warmth chasing away every cold memory the house had held. Kisses that started soft turned hungry, both of them swallowed by a need for more, healing traded for passion, pain replaced by touch. At the heart of their new life, Nora insisted on setting up a foundation to help fraud victims, a cause born from her own wounds. Elliot let her lead, saw the pride and drive she'd hidden from everyone until now. The night before the first gala, while zipping up her dress, Nora touched a hand to her stomach and froze. Shock, hope, and fear turned inside her. She was pregnant. The secret made her both lighter and heavier, so much at stake now, and so much joy crowding out the dark. If you found a new beginning where ruin used to be, would you trust it, or wait for it to break? Type a comment. Nora knew everything could change with a single word. It was the anniversary of Nora's first night, rain pattering gently, but inside the new mansion, everything felt warm for the first time in a lifetime. Guests filled every corner, friends, staff, even neighbors who had once been nothing but rumors and stares. Elliot and Nora stood together, hands tight. Tonight meant more than money or victory. When the final toast came, Nora touched her glass, cleared her throat, and faced Elliot and everyone else. "I have a secret to share," she said. "We're adding to our family." Tears shimmered on Elliot's lashes, his smile soft and real. After the party, with plates stacked high and music playing low, they curled up on the couch, just the two of them. Elliot whispered thanks into her skin, lips traveling her cheek and neck. They kissed slowly, every touch a promise that the worst was finally over, and the best was waiting just ahead. Nora glanced up at the storm outside and smiled. In that echoing house, where once every shadow felt like a threat, laughter fluttered and hope didn't hide. Sometimes, you only need one heart brave enough to stay, for forever to truly begin. If you've battled for someone or something worth fighting for, share your story below. And don't forget, loyalty isn't given, it's proved. Subscribe for more stories that remind us just how strong love can be, even when everything tries to break it.